The end of the world is coming. When? Well, we don't know, but many people over the course of history have tried to predict the end times, though not accurately, obviously, judging by the fact that we are all still here. Some of these predictions scared a lot of people into preparing for the apocalypse, and I'm here to tell you about some of them, so let's get to counting down the top 10 doomsday predictions from history people believed. At number 10, Mayan 2012. Remember the movie 2012 from 2009? You know, the one about the supposed 2012 apocalypse? If you do, then you would also remember how this had everyone so spooked. This movie was kind of based on the Mayan calendar prediction of the end of the world. Well, at least that's how it was interpreted by people. The Mayans had a complex calendar system, and if you want to learn more about that, then you should check out our other video about the mysterious things the Mayans did. Essentially, the Mayan calendar cited December 12, 2012 as the end of the first great cycle of the Mayan long count calendar, and as I mentioned, this made people think that this was an end times prediction. This then gave way to many other predictions as to how the world was going to end on the 21st of December 2012. Some predicted that the Earth would collide with another planet, others thought that we would succumb to solar flares, tidal catastrophes, and even the realignment of Earth's axes. Because this freaked so many people out, the doomsday prepping got a little out of control. One man in China built an ark in anticipation for some kind of great flood that was going to wipe us all out, and so many apocalypse kits were sold closer to our supposed end date. The hysteria that the 2012 movie created certainly didn't help, but guess what guys, we survived. It's hard to believe that this 2012 conundrum happened nearly 10 years ago. At number 9, Harold camping. So many people are concerned with when the world will end. Personally, that's a thought that I can't really concern myself with because I'd probably end up waking up every morning like, oh my god, is today the day we all die? And frankly, that's not something I want for myself. I worry about enough already, so I'll leave the doomsday concerns to other people, like Harold camping for example. Harold here was obsessed with trying to predict the end of the world. He was one of the most prolific doomsday predictors of modern times, but clearly he didn't get his prediction right since, again, we're all still here. He publicly predicted the end of the world as many as 12 times, and he even published a book in 1992 titled 1994, where he predicted that the world would end sometime around that year. He based his predictions on biblical numerology, but it wasn't exactly accurate. His most high-profile prediction of the end of the world came when he predicted that the world would end on May 21st, 2011, exactly 7,000 years after the biblical flood, but when that day passed and everything was still hunky-dory, he readjusted his prediction saying that his math was off and that the world would end on October 21st, 2011 instead. Guess his math was incorrect once again. Before we carry on talking about these wild end time predictions, why not take a moment to leave a like on this video if you're enjoying it so far, and also consider subscribing to the channel to see more videos like this one. At number 8, True Way. This one gets a little culty, so strap in folks. There was a UFO religion from Taiwan that predicted the end of the world. Yes, a UFO religion. Chen Tao, or True Way religion, mixed from Christianity, Buddhism, Taiwanese folk religion, and UFO conspiracy theories to create this way of belief, and their leader Han Ming-chen believed that the end of the world was near. He preached that God would appear on US national television on Channel 18 on March 25th, 1988 to announce that he would be returning to Earth in the following week. The following year, he preached that millions of devil spirits as well as massive flooding would result in the mass extinction of the human population. It sounded pretty frightening to some, but Han Ming-chen had a plan to save those who followed him and his beliefs. He told his followers to save themselves from this horrible fate that they could pay to board a spacecraft disguised as a cloud that would be sent to rescue them. I honestly have to wonder how many people actually fell for this and how many of them paid for this spaceship admission. Hopefully it didn't cost these people too much of their life savings. At number 7, Halley's Comet. Space remains much of a mystery to scientists. We don't really know for sure what's out there, but we have been able to learn a lot and track different space objects over the years. One pretty fascinating thing that scientists have discovered was Halley's Comet. This comet passes by our planet every 76 years, and it's a sight to see every time it returns, but in the early 1900s it caused quite a scare and made people think that the world was going to end. The closest that this comet ever came to our planet came back in 1910, and this created a lot of fear that it would destroy the planet either by colliding with us or through poisonous gas that many believed that the comet contained. Panic began to spread worldwide, and this was largely fueled by the media, who were publishing newspapers with headlines like "Comet may kill all Earth life, says scientist." People became so desperate to save themselves from the comet that they started doing some questionable and pretty horrible things. For example, a group of people down in Oklahoma tried to sacrifice a virgin to save themselves from this impending doom, and people even started selling bottled air, which actually became quite a hot commodity at the time. Clearly though, nothing happened and Earth survived the passing of the comet. At number 6, Millerism. Up next we have another religious leader who tried to predict the end of the world, but to no avail. Religious leader William Miller started preaching in 1831 that the world was going to end. According to him, the end times would come with the second coming of Christ, and that he would return in 1843. This prediction led Miller to gaining upwards of 100,000 followers, and they all believed that they would be carried off to heaven when everything went down. Obviously, the world didn't actually end in 1843, and instead predicted that the end of the world and Jesus' second coming would happen the following year in 1844. Documents were found of one of Miller's followers who wrote about his experience waiting for the predicted events to unfold, and he seemed a little cheesed that nothing happened. The follower, a man named Henry Emmons, wrote, quote, "I waited all Tuesday and dear Jesus did not come. I lay prostrate for 2 days without any pain, sick with disappointment." End quote. At number 5, Botticelli's painting. The idea of the end of the world isn't anything new. People have been worried about the apocalypse for many years, and even famed painter Botticelli was one who predicted the end of the world all the way back during the Renaissance. The Renaissance kind of gave way to the idea of the end of the world because the advancements in timekeeping and astronomy standardized the calendar. Once people really had an understanding of the passing of time, then they really started to wonder when time would end. Botticelli expressed his expectations for the apocalypse in his painting The Mystical Nativity, where he depicted several small devils pinned under rocks or to the ground with a Greek inscription that read, quote, "I, Sandro, painted this picture at the end of the year 1500 in the troubles of Italy, in the half-time after the time according to the 11th chapter of St. John, in the second woe of the apocalypse, in the loosening of the devil for 3.5 years. Then he will be chained in the 12th chapter, and we shall see him trodden down as the picture." End quote. Essentially, this meant that the painter was predicting that the end of the world would come in 1504. Imagine how relieved he must have been when 1504 passed without the apocalypse taking place. At number 4, Y2K. If you were around in the 90s, then you may recall the whole Y2K fiasco. Essentially, this doomsday prediction was born because of the Y2K bug. For years, computer programmers had been using 2 digits to represent the year, so people thought that the computers would go haywire when the clock struck midnight on January 1st, 2000, because they believed that the computers wouldn't be able to make sense of the year 00. As a result, people started panicking about what this could mean for the world. Some warned that this could result in nuclear war caused by glitches in the early warning systems. Others predicted economic chaos or widespread shortages due to people stockpiling goods, and others predicted that the milk supply would dry up because of possible malfunctions in dairy farm equipment. As a result of all this panic, billions of dollars were spent worldwide trying to fix the Y2K bug, but was all of that spending really necessary? Most people by December 1999 weren't all that worried about Y2K, so this was pretty much just a lot of panic for nothing. At number 3, the Great Fire of London. Many religions have influenced the public belief of the end of the world. We've already seen this with a couple of doomsday predictions so far on this list, but I'm gonna hit you with another one from all the way back in the 1600s. In the Bible, it references the number 666 as the number of the beast, aka the devil, so many Christians in Europe back in the 1600s believed that the world was going to end in 1666. Fast forward to that year, and in September of 1666, the Great Fire of London happened. This fire lasted from September 2nd to the 5th and decimated much of the city, destroying about 87 churches and 13,000 houses, among other establishments. Many saw this as the prophecy of the end of the world coming true. On the bright side of this though, with all the property damage, the death toll for this Great Fire was relatively low, as only 10 people died. It wasn't exactly the end of the world, but it was certainly something big that happened on the year of the beast. At number 2, the Great Flood. There have been countless theories as to how the world would end. Some believe that nuclear war will be our demise, others believe ecological collapse, asteroid impact, or even a pandemic. That last one is a little too real and is frankly getting more and more alarming as the days pass, but let's not think about that one too hard. One of the widely believed theories as to how the world would end that has actually been a thought for many centuries is death by Great Flood. Back in the 1500s, German mathematician and astrologer Johann Stoffler predicted that a great flood would cover the world and result in the demise of humanity on February 25th, 1524. He predicted this because this was the day that all known planets would be aligned under Pisces, a water sign. Soon after he made this prediction, hundreds of pamphlets were spread around warning of this great flood, and as you can imagine, this caused a lot of panic. A German nobleman was so dead set on surviving this apocalyptic event that he had a 3-story ark built. In the end though, when the day of February 25th, 1524 came, it rained, but it was just a slight rain and there was no major flooding, meaning that humanity got to live another day. And finally, at number 1, the Prophet Hen of Leeds. Many people have claimed to have had visions of the end of the world. This is how many predictions start, but here's a case where it was believed that a barnyard animal was warning humanity of the end of the world. In 1806 in Leeds, England, there lived a chicken that seemed to be doing something a little strange. She started laying eggs that appeared to have a message inscribed in the shell that read, "Christ is coming." This hen got pretty famous when word got out of this supposed prophecy, and people started traveling to see this hen and began worrying about the impending judgment day that was being foretold by this mystical bird. Soon though, this worry was dismissed as it was discovered that the chicken was in fact a fraud, or at least the chicken's owner was. It turned out that the owner had been writing on the eggs in a corrosive ink to write the message of the return of Christ, and then reinserting it into the hen's body to make it look like it had been laying the eggs. Not only is that cruel to the animal, but also incredibly misleading to the public, as it got a lot of people worked up and worried about the end of the world. Before we wrap things up for today, I want you guys to leave a comment down below telling me if you believe that the world was going to end in 2012. I remember so many people were freaking out back then, especially after the 2012 movie came out, so were you one of the people who prepped for the worst, or did you just carry on as normal? Tell me all about it down in the comments. Anyways, that's it for me. I've been your host, Bree Room, and until next time, stay safe and make good choices and stay sweet, bumblebees. This fire lasted from September. Cool. This comet passes by our planet every